Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show. No, it's not. It's America's Mayor Live. We just finished the Rudy Giuliani Show, and we spoke a good deal about the Pope and about tariffs and about trade. And we're going to have Father Pavone on shortly. So we'll talk about the Pope in a few minutes. So let's talk about some of the other things. And I guess the other really major thing on the horizon is the trade deals. And yesterday, the market looked like it was in a panic because although last week there appeared to be trade deals on the table with the UK, with Japan, Taiwan, Korea, none of them are going through. And you had several articles saying that there was bickering over little things, which I don't know why you would panic so much. They're always before a deal is made. I mean, you know how often negotiating at the very last minute, the deal's all done and somebody walks out for a day and wants to see if they get a little more. But in any event, I think the news from India helped. Vice President Vance had an excellent meeting with Prime Minister Modi in India. And you can see the market, the Dow went up 1,000. The others were all up. This was a big plus day. Market that big at 2.6% increase. They have to know something we don't know. No, they don't actually. They're looking at what you're looking at, and what they see is several on the table that are just about done, but for the last minute histrionics. And I have a view on this too, which I don't have to keep. It's not a big state secret. I think it'd be very wise if the administration would complete one of these. I don't think it's particularly necessary to do 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 like that, but doing one, getting one through the last roadblock would really help. And I thought I picked up by listening carefully that whoever completes first is going to get the best deal. And I think when the market heard that, because they understand Trump's ability. I also think you probably are suffering from a little bit too many cooks spoil the broth, largely because they're all interested in it. The Secretary of State, the Secretary of Commerce, my friend Peter Navarro, and who knows about all their staffs, and they probably have slightly different views. And different people are responsible for different agreements, and they all would like theirs to be first, so you might have a bottleneck there. Before it's over, I'm going to make a prediction on which one is first. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about what I know and what I can read and what I can see. But I mean, the group it would come from would be Japan, but he's not coming to the United States, the prime minister, that is for a week. Could be the UK anytime. It could be Taiwan anytime, or North Korea, or both. Could be Australia. Could be Italy. But Italy would have to be EU, unless she wants to break away and be an action, meaning the prime minister wants to break away and be an action-forcing event. But there's definitely one going to happen. That's what the market told you today. Big time. You don't go up 1,000 points when you went down almost that amount because you were afraid there'd be no trade deal. You know, the whole situation with anti-Semitism is really disturbing me. What the hell is Harvard fighting over? Whether it should, I mean, I'm not going to go through all the incidents and all that. Harvard was anti-Semitic before it was anti-Semitic. Harvard is the Ivy League school that wouldn't accept Jews. Certainly wouldn't accept them in the medical and law school for generations. It didn't take a lot for them to go back to being anti-Semitic. I mean, we were up there last year, and we had it was somewhat facetious or sarcastic, really, which was the worst school, Harvard or Columbia? And we picked Columbia. We made a mistake. I think Harvard's anti-Semitism is much more insidious. It's just ridiculous to say that they don't have a problem and they don't have to do anything about it. I mean, they've been working on a report for 1.5 years. I mean, you didn't need a report. All you needed were a few videos of the things they were saying and doing to the Jewish kids, and their support for October 7th, and their support for a well-known terrorist group. So they're fighting over, what is it, $2.4 billion, and they have a $50 billion endowment. If they just give up the $2.4 billion, they could do anything they wanted. We made that point the other day. These are greedy little communists, aren't they? Wow. Now you look at Cornell. So Cornell invites probably one of the best known, most vicious, disgusting anti-Semites, well known to almost anybody that covers it. They invite her to some special pre-graduation entertainment. And that's, I mean, I've never seen her, Kalani. Now, Kalani, the president, Michael Kotlikov, claimed that the school wasn't aware of the Jew bashing of Kalani. Of course, it would have been available on any online search. It seems to me absurd that somebody would be picked to do this and they wouldn't hand over even like a Wikipedia on the person, right? The Wikipedia would immediately tell you that she was a big supporter of October 7th, that she was a big supporter of Hamas the day after they did it. She endorsed the Intifadas. She participates in the demonization of Jews.
That's right, Mayor.
I mean, this is not, you don't need Bernie Carrick to dig this out for you.
Cornell University under fire for inviting entertainer Kalani, who is known for having bashed Jews in the past, to perform on campus on May 7th. Kalani has a music video that begins with, quote, "Long live the Intifada," and has even shared a map online that eliminates the state of Israel. She has also refused to condemn the October 7th attack. Cornell invited the multi-Grammy award-winning nominated R&B artist after the Trump administration froze over $1 billion in federal funding to the Ivy League school. A civil rights probe is also underway to determine if the university failed to prevent anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment on campus.
So if you just went online, you'd find out that she has chanted at her concerts, "Long live the Intifada," which is, of course, a terrorist. It's a series of attacks carried out by terrorist groups. That she's promoted violence against Israelis is the only answer. That she's shared any number of times a map online that eliminates the state of Israel. So she shows what it would look like if they went from the river to the sea. In other words, the destruction and annihilation of the Jewish people. She not only refused to condemn Hamas for October 7, she called it hypocrisy to do that. And the president said it's too late to make a change. I mean, what is this, the inauguration of a president?
Yeah.
It's a damn entertainment. Well, I mean, what kind of a putsch is this? And by the way, he's known it for 3 weeks. So it's not as if we're talking about today. It just came out that it hit the press. So it wasn't too late 3 weeks. It's not too late now. Let us sue you.
Well, Mayor, on that note, we have a very special guest tonight. We're very excited to welcome onto the program an individual who may have a little bit of insight on the upcoming conclave and all things pertaining to the Catholic Church. We'd like to welcome onto the show Father Frank Pavone. Father Frank Pavone is the National Director of Priests for Life. He's the National Pastoral Director of Rachel's Vineyard and the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, and also serves as President of the National Pro-Life Religious Council. Father Frank Pavone, welcome to the show.
So good to see you. Where are we talking to you?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's great to be with you. I'm at our headquarters in Titusville, Florida.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. You look very, very good. Happy Easter, Father.
Happy Easter to you.
So, Father, could you just tell us in your own words, I mean, how do you see the now that it's concluded and the Pope has gone to his eternal reward, how do you see the papacy of the Pope? I mean, it certainly was episodic and important. Some people think wonderful, some people think terrible, and some people think, as us Italians say, mezza mezza.
Well, you know, you look back at it, and certainly there were some very good parts of the message he gave to the world. He reminded us of God's mercy. That was a key theme that he hit on every day. And, you know, I had the chance to have about 5 meetings with him over the years.
Okay, wonderful.
In the course of my pro-life work, and he encouraged my work, and because especially, you know, we work to bring mercy and forgiveness to those that have had abortions and have asked God for forgiveness, and so the Pope encouraged us very much in that. He also gave a good lesson to the clergy. He said, you know, if you're pastoring your flock, you have to have the odor of the sheep on your clothing. So he taught people to, you know, be really with the people. But you and I, Mr. Mayor, go way back to Cardinal John O'Connor. I mean, if anybody taught that lesson, he was the man to teach that. We miss him, don't we?
We do. Oh yeah.
But
one of a kind.
Oh, one of a kind for sure. But I think, you know, aside from these things I'm saying now, I consider this to have been a papacy of confusion and of division. Right from the very beginning, I would be getting calls, other Catholic leaders would be getting calls, and they all followed the same script. Hey, the Pope just said this. What does he mean by that? That doesn't sound right. You know, that doesn't sound consistent with Catholic teaching. And I would say to them, hey, listen, I don't know what he means by that, but it's okay to be confused about what a pope says. You never have to be confused about what the faith says. The faith is clear. It's been solid for 2,000 years, and that's what we always have to keep our focus on. You know, we call the Pope the vicar of Christ. That's a referential term. He's supposed to be reflecting the teachings of Jesus. If he doesn't do that, you know, that's on him. It doesn't have to confuse us. But it's been terrible, really. I think a lot of people are, of course, we're all saddened and
of course,
obviously respectful of the office of the Pope and nothing against the man himself. But there's also a sense of, okay, now it's time for some healing in the church. You know, it is almost like a sigh of relief from the terrible, terrible burden that has been placed on many Catholics from some of the inexplicable things this Pope has done.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I see 2 or 3 things for which I respect him a lot. What he did, I thought he straightened out the finances of the church, and gave people a lot more confidence that it's being handled honestly. I think he finally showed that the church is beyond and prepared to make sure it doesn't happen again. You know, the scandals with the priests. I thought he did a good job of that. And then beyond that, I think he missed the time. I think the cardinals didn't predict the period of time we were coming into.
Yes,
and they picked him when Obama was the president. Europe was going left wing. there was going to be one world, and I was also very upset with their appeasing China.
That's right.
And really, we're getting tremendous number of converts now, because the Catholic Church is one of the few established religions that has any kind of principles left.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's really
exactly.
strange. You know, I almost feel like if there had been a more traditional pope, the gains would have been even greater.
Oh, I think so for sure.
But now's the opportunity for it.
It is. It is. People are looking for meaning. We need
Yes.
meaning in life as much as we need food and water and oxygen. And what the left has done is they've rejected the very concept of truth. Now, if you don't have truth, if you can just rewrite reality, make a man into a woman and a woman into a man, and an open border is a secure border, and a violent riot is a peaceful protest. I mean, the Democrats are always taking these things and just twisting reality up on top of itself, and so people are looking for some anchor of truth and certainty and meaning, and that's what more and more people are finding in the Catholic Church and in the Christian faith overall.
Now, the selection of a pope is always whether you're Catholic or not. It's one of the most fascinating processes. And with this movie out, The Conclave,
right?
What did you think of the movie? I got really upset with the ending. But what is have you seen it?
Actually, I know about the movie, but I actually have not watched it. No.
Yeah, I watched it on an airplane.
Did you?
Yeah. And actually, I was really prepared to hate it completely. And I'm watching the movie, and then all of a sudden, I realized about 3/4 of the way in what the ending was going to be, and then I realized why I hated the movie. But it did a pretty good job of teaching people the basics of what they're going to go through now.
Yeah,
I mean, it showed how they lock the Pope's chambers, and they smash his ring, and the cardinals come together, and the way in which they debate by talking to each other informally. So I think actually, in some ways, it's very informative, and then it gets ridiculous. It gets completely, it gets Hollywood nuts.
But it is a fascinating process. You know, it has its roots way back in history. I mean, this is now going to be the 267th time we've done this, and these cardinals get together, and so there'll be, there'll be over 200 cardinals getting together, but only the ones that are under 80 years old can actually vote. The rest, I mean, they can all take part in the discussions and, of course, the prayers. It's interesting, there's a rule that was put in place under John Paul II that campaigning is strictly forbidden. So literally,
the Americans are going to be in trouble.
Oh yeah. But the Cardinals, they can't go to each other and say, "Hey, if I become Pope, you vote for me. I'm going to do this for you later on." Strictly forbidden. That doesn't mean that some won't do it, but and then they get together, and of course they're all flying into Rome now as we speak, and they're going to have. You think about it, they have a very serious duty to really get to know each other well. They'll choose someone from among their number, and boy, they have to. And I was a little concerned about this actually, because Pope Francis has not brought them together very much.
Yes, that's right.
Right? Yeah. Right. He appointed a lot of cardinals, but he didn't bring them together very often. So hopefully they've been doing that kind of work on their own. But then they go into the secret conclave. Once these days of mourning are completed and the Pope's funeral is finished, there'll be a few more days probably after that. And then they'll gather together. And it's like no communication in or out except by that smokestack. And I remember one year, I forget which Pope it was, but if the smoke comes out black, they didn't make a decision yet. If it comes out white, means they did. So the news was on, and smoke started coming out of the smokestack, and the reporter said, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, the smoke is definitely gray."
I think I remember one where they did get confused at the first one that came up.
Yes,
and people got excited thinking there was a new Pope.
And that's right.
But I think this is a very important choice, because the world needs an anchor right now.
Yes.
It seems like it's morally spinning around without solid values.
That's right.
Even for people that aren't Catholics, as long as they're not just hostile, they look to the Pope.
They do.
The closest thing we have to a moral leader in the world.
That's right. That's right. And it's such an important time too, because one of the things I've been thinking about during these days is that we had such a shift here in America, such a beautiful shift in this last election. People came out and they rejected the woke agenda. They rejected the ideology of the left. Now, many of those same people that went into the voting booths are sitting in the pews in church.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And it's like they want the same shift in their church. They didn't reject a wokeness in their government only to have it presented in the pulpit. They want this rejected across the board. I hope these cardinals are perceptive enough to realize that these are the people. This is what God is saying through the flock, is that no more wokeness in the pulpit, no more wokeness in the Vatican. We've had too much of that, and if you get a really solid, common sense Pope that adheres to values, that knows the signs of the times, that rejects this woke ideology, that unlike Pope Francis, doesn't give any credence to these climate change agendas or.
I never got that. What's
right.
the Pope doing with climate change?
What's he doing with that? Yeah, and open borders. I mean, that's just terrible. But if we get a Pope who's on the right track with all those things, imagine the dynamic of that Pope.
People are thirsting for it.
They're thirsting for it. And imagine someone like that then working on the world stage with someone like President Trump. I mean, that's like, there could be another, like with Reagan and John Paul II, right? The stuff that happened with that dynamic. And I just, then you'll get the United States and the church and the Vatican moving in the same direction. That's what the world needs right now.
Well, I've said that the single most important thing for America, because we have to bring a lot back, is to bring God back into America.
Yes.
And I try to say to people who don't believe in God, it's better for you if God is back, because we'll have a much more solid country.
Yeah,
you don't have to believe it, but you know we will.
It's going to be better for you.
And I think that's true for Europe. I mean, Europe has gotten so far, Western Europe, not Eastern Europe, but Western Europe has become hostile to the religion that defined Western Europe.
So true.
It's got to be brought back. Italy, because of Giorgia Meloni and what's happened there, Italy is making that transition.
They are.
But right now, the Catholics that are growing are in Asia and Africa,
right,
South America, and America.
Yep. I hope we get an African Pope, actually. I think that would be very exciting to get one.
Wouldn't that be?
Yeah.
And they're very conservative. Right? They a lot of them split from the Episcopal Church. Remember, over their issue. So, well, Father, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. We'll talk again before this happens.
Please,
I want to get your wisdom on it. All right?
Please, it's an honor to be with you, Mr.
It's an
Mayor.
honor to be with you, and I'll
look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, I hope to see you in Florida when I get back there. I should be back in a couple of days.
Please. Okay, great. Thank you.
Happy Easter again.
Happy Easter.
What a fine man, huh? Great priest and a fine man. And as you can see, I mean, people have the view of the Catholic Church that it's very, you got to just keep repeating everything the Pope says. And, those of us who have been educated, even modestly as a Catholic, and of course he's a priest, so the Pope, there's a misconception, I think, and maybe even some Catholics have it, but certainly people who aren't do. It is said that the successor of St. Peter, the Pope, is infallible, which means he can't be wrong. So when you say that, it sounds like everything he says, I have to agree with and follow, otherwise I'm not a good Catholic or a good person. Now, let me tell you how narrow that is. The Pope is infallible. And this is almost like memorized from the 5th grade, right? The Pope is infallible on matters of faith and morals when he deliberately speaks ex cathedra. Now, that means from the seat of St. Peter, from the throne of St. Peter. In other words, it has to be, if the Pope tells you you have to vote for President Trump, or, well, maybe that is infallible. But if he tells you have to vote for President Trump or Biden or whatever, of course, it doesn't matter. It's not a matter of faith and morals, unless unless we were talking about Hitler or some, if he made a pronouncement like that, maybe about China or something like that, that would be different. But in normal times, the Pope is not going to be able to invoke or wouldn't invoke infallibility, matters of politics, economics, but a matter of faith, what constitutes the most important tenets of faith, and the moral rules that have us stick together as one church, then he's the final word. And almost all of the things, if not all of the things that we talk about Pope Francis, those who criticize him, and even those who don't, the Pope did not overuse that. Now, he used his bully pulpit, because when he talked about climate change, a lot of people maybe get confused that because the Pope said it, they have to agree with it. But climate change is not a matter of faith and morals. And not only that, he didn't define it as such. All the things that I was talking to Father Pavone about, where we disagreed with the Pope, theoretically, we wouldn't be able to do as good Catholics if he had put it in that category of an encyclical and said, I am speaking now. I mean, it has to be very deliberate. I am speaking now as a successor, the Vicar of Christ, successor of St. Peter. He did not do that on these, let's say, controversial left-wing, progressive, socialist, however you want to describe ideas. Now, they did confuse people, but not people who were the most knowledgeable, and they didn't indefinitely move the whole church in one direction, because the church is, irrespective of him, moving in the other direction. That's where its great growth is taking place. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the cardinals assess all this. They're relatively young. They're all 80 or less than 80. Just to get an idea of how long they live, there are almost as many over 80 as under 80. If you look at the group, there'll be as many cardinals outside of the conclave because they're too old as inside. So these guys live a long time. And I do think one of them's over 80 could be selected. Can't vote, but he can be selected. So we talked about the terrible, terrible scourge of anti-Semitism. And I really do think we have to take it more seriously. I've never seen this much anti-Semitism in America in my lifetime. There was a time in which Harvard was very well known for, the medical school in particular, need not apply. If you're Jewish, you need not apply. I think that's also true of the law school. I'm not as certain, but it was a very well-known anti-Semitic institution, as were all of the Ivy League schools, but none as bad as Harvard. And it looks like that's still the case. And when you see Cornell now making these ridiculous excuses for this vicious hater of the Jewish people, and going to perform on campus in May, the night before the graduation, and it's too late to do anything about it, even though this was done a long time ago. And as I said, this is not stuff that's hard to pick up about it. You just put a name in the computer and it comes right out. And they knew it 3 weeks ago. Let's see. Maybe this will, I was going to show you. I'm going to try to. Can we?
You want to bring that up?
Yeah, I want to bring it up. This is rather strange. This is a rather strange little thing I'm showing him here.
In the middle there.
Yeah, but I know it's going to have to stay there, unfortunately, because
Top right, get rid of that. Top right.
yeah, we can. I just want to show them the visual, because you'll get an idea of how many of these cardinals were selected by Pope Francis. So if you look at that, at the bottom, you'll see between 2013 and 2025, this is the number of cardinals that now exist. In the black boxes are the ones appointed by Pope Francis. So in Europe, looks like 80% were appointed by Pope Francis. In Latin America, almost all were appointed by Pope Francis, but 3. In Canada, 2/3. Canada and the United States, 2/3. Africa, 80%. Asia, 80%. And Australia, Oceania, everyone. So all but a handful of cardinals were selected by Pope Francis, which I imagine, there's one that's a little bit better. It shows it again. But I imagine that will have some bearing on their philosophy and their thinking, right? That so many were appointed by him. We'll have to see when they begin deliberating. I hate to recommend, watching the conclave so that you pick up all of these little things about what's going to happen. So if you don't want to watch it because I'll give you a few days to watch it, then we'll discuss it as if you have, so I can discuss the ending with you.
We'll do a watch.
Yeah,
Watch party.
Ted hasn't seen it, so I'll watch it with Ted. I watched it on an airplane. I was dead set against watching it. I had an idea of how they bastardized it, and but then I was on an airplane and I said,
"That's when we watch movies, right?"
Well, let me see if I can. Yeah, that's true. And I was very surprised at the first half of it, but then we went off track.
But the point being, Mayor, you're saying for anyone that wants to get a little bit of an idea of the process, it does give you that.
You'll get the process, and even the mistakes they make about the process are not malicious. They're
well, you're not.
It's a secret. It's a secret process, so you know a certain amount, but you have to guess at some of it. So none of that I find objection. Maybe some do because it has them being a little bit more, as Father Pavone said, Pope John prohibited, John Paul prohibited campaigning.
Well, you're not alone in that recommendation, Mayor. Per Wired magazine, Conclave has seen a major viewership spike in the wake of Pope Francis's death.
Of course.
The film's viewership has shot up 300% almost.
Of course. That was the best thing that ever happened to them. They were very lucky with
the timing.
With the disgustingly sacrilegious movie they did. But it is, I'm telling you, they got the ceremony about 80% correct. If you take away from that what they told you, you're gonna have a pretty good idea of what's gonna happen in terms of the way they vote. A few little details. They have them vote at the altar in front, but if you look at the pictures of the last couple of conclaves, they vote actually in the middle. They make the voting appear to take much longer. It takes 20 minutes for the vote to take place, but actually they have to move along pretty fast because they vote individually. They have a note paper, and they write the name of the candidate on the note paper, and they fold it in half. And I think in order of seniority, I think. That's not made absolutely clear. They walk up and they individually put they say a prayer, and they individually put their ballot in a big chalice, and they cover it. And then the next one comes from the other side, and he does the same thing. And then the next, and it's a secret ballot. Three cardinals. It's presided over by the Camerlengo, who is the former bishop from Houston. He's the chairman, and there are 3 counters, 3 cardinals to do the counting. One supervises it, and one does it, and one checks it. And they read out every name, right? Cardinal, so and so, cardinal, and one of them marks off the name. And when it's over, they add up, announce the numbers, then they go back and check. But they go back and check no matter if they have gotten to 2/3 plus one or not, just to make sure before they finish that they have the accurate vote. And then if the vote doesn't get to 2/3 plus one, they take all of the ballots, put them in a stove, use a chemical that helps emit black smoke. And then you'll see the smoke coming up the chimney. And as the Father Pavone said, every once in a while, the first one that comes out isn't black enough, and they get all excited because, well, maybe it's going to be white. Then when they have the Pope, a couple of things will happen, actually. They vote twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon. So you get, if it's gone beyond a day, you get a pretty good idea of when these votes take place. So if there's a big, long, let's say after one day they vote 4 times, they don't get a Pope. The next day they vote real quick, they don't get a Pope. Now you're getting a big delay. You should be, that's the selection of a Pope that you're seeing right now.
This is from 2013.
So that's the selection of Pope Francis. But the point that I was going to make was, let's say they do 2 the first morning, black smoke. They do 2 the first afternoon, black smoke. They come back the next morning, black smoke. Now seems to be about the time the smoke should be coming up, right? 2 hours later, let's say, right before lunch. And now we get a delay. You get a delay and you can be pretty damn sure the white smoke is going to come up. Because when they actually select a Pope, they got to do a bunch of things to really check the vote, right? Like if it's way off by 20 votes, they're going to check it. We're going to check it really fast. But if the guy's gone over the 2/3, then they're going to be much more careful. There can be a delay there. I don't know exactly when they put the smoke up, but it would have to be after he accepts, because after a cardinal gets 2/3 plus one, the Camerlengo and the 3 other cardinals walk up to him and ask him if he accepts. He can turn it down. I have to go back historically to see how often that's happening, or if we know, because these are private proceedings. And when he says yes, he's asked, what name do you want? And then he selects a name, as a Cardinal Bergoglio did, and he selected the name Francis for Francis of Assisi. And then I think at that point, they then package up the ballots and emit white smoke. Then the Pope is taken into the back to pray, and then he's fitted with one of 3 white tunics, cassocks, tunics, that are already made and sitting there, small, medium, large. Ceremony is 1,600 years old.
Wow, must be the longest, maybe the longest running ceremony.
And think how influential an office it is.
Everybody knows. Everybody across the world knows about the Pope.
Think of the influence that it has, one way or the other.
Especially now, Mayor.
I really would like to see the Pope. I know. Pope John Paul II would have been very, very vocal about this because he had a sensitivity to anti-Semitism. Cardinal O'Connor had a major sensitivity to it. I'd like to see the Pope talk out about that. This is a terrible thing that this is going on. And of course, maybe because, well, it's not just going on in America. It's just as bad, if not worse, in Western Europe. Used to be, Well, no, Europe has been afflicted by anti-Semitism before. You think about France, and not just Germany, but France and England. And well, the Democrats have now dedicated themselves to be the party of MS-13. They are the political arm of MS-13. They are working furiously to try to bring this scumbag back into America. And why do I say scumbag? Because he is. The guy is, without any doubt, a member of MS-13. 2 courts decided that. For the ridiculous reasons of our idiotic judges, ultimately, he wasn't deported. He wasn't not deported because he isn't a organized criminal. He was not deported because there was fear that he'd be killed by another gang. Now, why an American judge would worry about him being killed by another gang? That's going to be El Salvador's problem when he goes back. And that's not refugee or asylee status. That if you're going to be persecuted by the government, not by. And by the way, several years ago, that gang was completely eliminated. It's gone now. And he is not he's not a Maryland man. How do they get away, ladies and gentlemen? How do they get away with lying to you so much? This guy is a. I mean, I wouldn't be as shocked if he didn't. I mean, he basically has it written right here, MS-13. Written here. He might as well put it on his head, MS-13. Well, he's not a member of MS-13. He's a Maryland man. Yes. So 4 Democrats have gone down to El Salvador now. Another 5 now, using their campaign funds, we believe. One of them is Representative Yasemin Ansari from Arizona, who in the congressional district number 1 has a very, very large homeless veteran population and homeless population, one of the largest in the West. Not doing much about that. Never seemed to care very much about the hostages in the Hamas was holding.
How many visits to Israel have these Democrats made?
Oh, this guy, I bet he's made Yasemin. Why don't you look? Why don't you look him up? Why don't you look Representative Yasemin Ansari up, who's got the time to leave Arizona? Now, what in the name of the living God does this guy have to do? This MS-13 guy have to do with Arizona? Is anybody in Arizona going to be any better or any worse? What happens to him? He can't leave it to other people. Please don't look at me strange when I say this political party has gone crazy. Actually, you look at me strange if I wasn't able to conclude that. You realize the things they advocate for? You got to sit there with your mouth open. The Supreme Court today, mutilate a kid, but don't tell the parents. They don't have a right to know. So Yasemin is Congressional District 1. And we have to remember that Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas, has asserted, to show you what a fine judge of character she is, that President Trump is far worse and much more dangerous.
Demand that Donald Trump facilitate the safe return home for Mr. Kilmar.
Do you want to hear?
Yeah.
The facts of this case are abundantly clear. Mr. Garcia was abducted. He is a father. He is a husband. He's a union member. His union leadership is advocating for him through the building trade, saying that he needs to come home. And he was wrongly deported here to a foreign prison in El Salvador. And our government has admitted that mistake. The Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court in the land, has said his return home must be facilitated by the United States government. So we are here today to demand that he is returned as soon as possible. We had a meeting this morning with the embassy here in El Salvador, and from what we have heard, there is no reason for me to believe that our administration, the Trump administration, is doing anything to facilitate his safe return home.
I don't know what to say, man. What do you say?
You know how many hostages there are around the world that are really people that are being persecuted?
They chose, out of everyone, Mayor, they choose this man.
They choose a guy who beat the shit out of his wife a couple of times.
You know, he was also stopped in a traffic stop in the state of Tennessee where police had reason to believe he was facilitating human trafficking.
Of course, yeah. He's been arrested several times, and he's been identified twice by courts as members of MS-13. And the only reason, as I said, he wasn't deported is because fear that he'll be killed by another gang, which is sort of like a finding that he's a member of a gang, right?
Bizarre.
Well, Jasmine Crockett thinks that President Trump is more dangerous than Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's a lot less criminal than the person that's sitting in the White House. I mean, shouldn't these people just be required at that point to resign from office for being so stupid? It's like when the brilliant Justice Jackson couldn't define what a woman is. If she's in my class, I would have thrown her out. I'd say, well, yeah, I'm sorry. It doesn't sound like you're ready for 8th grade education yet. Senator Jamie Raskin, who is one of the criminals of the J6 committee, has threatened President Berkeley and said they're going to cut off foreign aid.
Yeah.
If he cooperates with the Trump administration. Now, isn't that interfering in the foreign relations of the United States? Isn't it? I mean, if you interfere their way, it's okay, but the other way, you try to put the guy in prison? Aren't you not supposed to interfere in the foreign relations of the United States? Isn't it an ancient crime?
Yeah.
He's telling Berkeley what to do.
Here's everybody's favorite rep, Jamie Raskin, threatening the president of El Salvador.
I think the president is shaking.
Declared himself a dictator, and the other tyrants, dictators, autocrats of the world have to understand that the Trump administration is not going to last forever. We're going to restore strong democracy to America, and we will remember who stood up for democracy in America and who tried to drive us down towards dictatorship and autocracy. So,
well, you know, I don't think he'll have much to say about it because he should be doing it from prison for all the violations of the law that were involved in his pursuit and persecution of the people involving January 6th, his destruction of records, his lying about it, his lying about Russian collusion. Well,
Such a good point, man.
so now here's the real stuff. Border. We know that the border crossings from the south have fallen to just about nothing, from 3.5 million in Biden's best year. The ones from the north have also, which encompasses New York, Vermont, and north of where we are right here, New Hampshire. 95% drop in border crossings from Canada. So maybe the people in Canada are pissed off at him, but they sure are helping and making sure that these creeps don't get into the United. 95% drop. Could you do any better than that? Yeah, you do 100%. Now, I'll give you an idea of how the Democrats don't stop, though, and how insane they are. So Mayor Adams is trying to cooperate with ICE. And they say, oh, it's because of the case and whatever. Well, I don't know if it is or it isn't because of the case, but he should be cooperating with ICE. It's a federal law. So he put ICE back in Rikers Island so that they could make sure that people don't fall through the cracks, because when they fall through the cracks, they tend to rape or kill somebody. The city council went to court and got an injunction against the mayor, signed by Judge Mary Rosado, who I'm going to tell you, I don't know who the hell she is, probably in Queens, because that's the jurisdiction Rikers Island is in. So she was appointed by the Democratic boss in Rikers Island. You think I really think that's a judge? How ridiculous. It's a federal law. And they're talking about Trump is a dictator. They follow the laws they agree with. They violate the laws they disagree with, and then they lie. It's really remarkable. Well, the White House, as we talked to when we talked to Allison, made it clear that the White House has given 100% support to Pete Hegseth, and this is becoming a pile-on now. Why don't they let the guy just do the job of Secretary of Defense for a year or so? Let's see how good a job he does. If he keeps doing a really good job, maybe whether you like him or not, maybe we should have him there. Huh? I mean, I think today and over the last 2 weeks, Secretary Kennedy has certainly vindicated the confidence that the president had in him. Nobody's done as much to unearth and try to find out why our rates of illness have gone up so dramatically. I wish we were doing as much about education. You know, when I showed you that chart before, in 9 years, we've moved 20 places down in math and English. Nobody's upset. These are our children. They're being sold out by the Communist Teachers Union. And the Democratic Party, which takes money from them, is just sitting there watching it happen. You know, 70% of African Americans want school choice and 90% of African American politicians vote against it. Why? You know what that means? What does that mean? Money. Bribe money from the teachers union. Now, how did Kristi Noem's bag get stolen in a DC eatery if she has Secret Service protection?
Yeah, that's an interesting story that broke yesterday.
She was at the Capitol Burger, 1 mile from the White House. She said she was paying and she felt a brush against her leg, which she thought was one of her grandchildren. I mean, she looks pretty good for a grandma, huh? No, I shouldn't have said that, right?
No, that's okay. So
her entire family was in town, including her children and grandchildren. And she was using the cash withdrawal to treat a family to dinner on Easter. That's a nice thing, right?
The purse was taken by a white man wearing a mask, and the bag contained $3,000 in cash.
Her driver's license, a passport, a DHS badge, her makeup, her checks, her bank card, a health care card, medication, and apartment keys.
That's right.
A Gucci B5 large shoulder bag. And it had a Louis Vuitton Clemens purse inside. It was placed on the ground at Noam's table when it was snatched, according to the report. A white man in an N95 surgical mask, dark pants, and a fur-type collar and a ball cap snatched it. Not been identified yet. I mean, I feel really, I mean, look.
DC, it's just another example of the crime in Washington.
It is another example of the crime in Washington. And I'm not going to jump on the Secret Service for this one. I mean, there is also a kind of thing, now having had protection for as long as I did, and I mean, I resisted it for 20 years, and then I had to do it, and I just made everybody my pal. So it was like going out with the guys, but they were very good. But there were times in which they had to just give me distance. I mean, I had to take the risk. Otherwise, you feel like a prisoner. Yeah. I mean, so you're going to say, well, why weren't they right? Because she probably wanted a little distance with her family. I mean, there is a certain, when you're a public figure, you know that you give away that, and you probably should just be stoic enough to always say, well, I just can't have a normal life. But I'm sorry, they're all human, and particularly family time. You got, it looks to me like you had about 12 or 15 people in her family. You don't want guards all over you. It even scares some of the kids. I know this because I went through this. I used to have my family over on holidays at Gracie Mansion for like Christmas Eve, and I used to pay for it. The statute of limitations is run anyway. But I know we'd all go to St. Patrick's on Christmas Eve after we had a modified Italian feast, and some of my family would go, some of my family would stay. And you know, I remember sometimes I would ask, just give us a little more room, or it's a trade-off. So I know there's going to be a lot of harsh judgments about this, but having lived through it, I'm very sympathetic. So the students are all upset that they're going to have to pay the loans back. And I think they can make deals. I think there's a certain flexibility. You know, they're not going to be forgiven completely the way Biden wanted to do, which is illegal. But you can make deals on these loans, I think, like any loan. And so that'll be facilitated. But you can't get angry at Trump for this. I mean, it was unconstitutional what Biden did. He said he would never do it. The speaker said he would never do it. It would be unconstitutional. Then he did it. It got reversed. And then he did it again. And it got reversed again. Because he wanted their votes. And they were suckers. What? The president has gotten himself involved in a very local dispute. So let's see how you feel about this. But I mean, I know this area. This is where Bo comes from.
Ah.
So, oh no, no, Massapequa isn't. It's a little further out, Babylon. Massapequa has a football team or teams, and they're called the Massapequa Chiefs. And they're one of the better athletic schools on Long Island. I don't follow it like I used to, but at one time they were one of the best. I assume they still are. The state of New York is requiring the schools and everybody else take away every Native American name. So if you're the, Garden City Indians or the Massapequa Chiefs or you have to get rid of the name. Now the town and the school wants to keep the name. And there doesn't seem to be a single Native American who gives a damn. In fact, when they polled the Native Americans on the Washington Redskins, 85% were in favor of keeping the name Redskins. So I don't know what this is about, this woke bullshit. Aren't there the Kansas City Chiefs?
Bingo.
And they have what's her name?
Taylor.
Silly girl. What's her name?
How can she be dating a member of a sports team?
Puffhead.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
But the mayor, the president, made so many good points in his True Social post about this. One point that I've been making ever since the Redskins changed their name, we used to actually honor local Native American tribes and populations. They teach the fans about the history about the local Native American populations. Now they're just completely ignored and thrown out. I truly believe this will actually be hurtful. It's hurtful to these Native American tribes and populations to completely to take them out of, to just remove their
I didn't
names.
think the Redskins' name should be changed either.
Yeah.
But I guess color. I don't know.
Oh, that is different than Chiefs, is what you're saying.
But like Indians, what the heck is wrong with calling them Indians?
Or even Chief. A chief is like
Chiefs, I mean,
it's celebrating tough. The leader, the chief.
Don't we have statues of some of the Native American chiefs?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they actually may have been killers, but they were.
That's right.
But they were fierce defenders of their people.
That's right. I would love to know. Let's get an actual poll, a vote.
I don't think anybody gives a damn, but a bunch of silly, stupid, left-wing communist jackasses.
And by the way, just the term chief, just calling yourself chiefs.
Well, they have a big headdress, and I mean, it's clear what they're talking about. It's not as if they're talking about
police chief,
the chief of the fire department.
No, sure, but even Indian chief, a chief. You're not naming a specific chief.
It's a distinguished position.
It's a title within, or yes,
you're the leader of the tribe. I mean, I always thought that was like the
senators.
Yeah, and even better, you probably, in the old days, you won on the field of battle. I mean, senators win it by bribing people. That's right. But I'm glad the president. Or if they don't, they then go and meet up with a lobbyist, and all of a sudden they walk out like Schumer worth $100 million.
Is this just about people that just have to they have to get their panties in a bunch over something? What is this about? Who's out there demanding this high school?
I should have said this to Father Pavone. I really feel like doing a major podcast on this with me questioning religious leaders, not just Catholic, but Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish. I really think this is all because because religion has, it hasn't disappeared, but whereas 85% of America believed in God, and now it's down to 75 or 65 or 55. People need to believe in something. So if they don't believe in something substantial like God or a moral system that elevates the world, they start to believe in culty things and crazy things. So this is it's like
that's right.
It's like climate change, which is why the Pope being in favor of climate change is ridiculous. Climate change is a cult. It has nothing to do with science. It doesn't even mean anything.
Right.
Of course, there's climate change. What does it mean? They're afraid to say what it means because it doesn't happen. The Earth is not getting warmer necessarily. Carbon is the level of carbon. If it tripled, wouldn't harm you. In fact, if it doesn't, it might harm you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's a heck of a lot more leap of faith in religion than there is in climate change. I have a heck of less.
Well, don't tell this to our friend Al Gore. Al Gore's not doing so well.
Come on, that was a complete con job. Gore made a fortune on it, and he was able to.
Well, Mayor, I hate to say it, he ain't done. Watch this from yesterday.
To protect us against a threat identical to Donald Trump, someone who seeks power at all costs to get more power.
Former Vice President Al Gore came out swinging against President Trump.
Drill, baby, drill.
And his administration's push for the use of fossil fuels Monday at the start of SF Climate Week at San Francisco's Exploratorium.
Anywhere in the world where there is an effort to pass legislation or regulations that reduces the burning of fossil fuels, they are there with their money, with their lobbyists, with their captive politicians, blocking it as best they can.
Gore, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007 for his work on climate change, spoke to this crowd, just like Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi and San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie. But it was Gore whose energy seemed to resonate.
Right now, the entire continent of Africa, fastest growing population in the world, has fewer solar panels installed than the single state of Florida in the United States of America. That's a disgrace.
He must be invested in those solar panels. He's pissed.
I don't want any solar panels.
Yeah, he's pissed. He's
Stick
sweating.
the solar panels up your big fat. I don't want any solar panels, okay?
He's pissed.
I like birds. You kill birds, Gore. You're a bird killer.
He's talking. He's sweating and yelling like someone who's losing his
so
investment.
red. You think he's got high blood pressure?
He must be losing money on his green investments.
Look, I want you to look at the Pope. Take a look at this picture of the Pope. I wish before he died I had a chance to talk to him about that. See how he likes birds? That poor bird could get killed by one of those climate change windmills, right?
Yeah.
They kill birds left and right, these windmills.
That is cool. It's real. That's not Photoshop. That's a cool picture, man.
Well, that could be the Holy Ghost, right?
It's your time. It's your time, Father.
So what are you supposed to? I've got to. Too bad I didn't ask Father Pavone this. Maybe I'll ask Alan this. We'll try to get him on tomorrow. You're supposed to say Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit.
Very good question. I've always felt strange saying Holy Ghost. I always say Holy Spirit.
You do too. I mean,
but I'm far from an expert.
The Latin is Spiritus Sancti. So if you want to say the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, it's in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti.
Well, I think you just answered it for me.
In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. But then you'll see people talk about the Holy Ghost.
Why is that?
I don't know. There's one question, one answer about religion. I don't know. And are there certain sects of Christianity that prefer the use of the word Holy Ghost to Holy Spirit?
That's a very, very good question. Holy Ghost and Holy Spirit are synonymous terms referring to the third person of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, but it's the same. Yeah, I think they're talking about the same concept, the same thing.
That's right. The phrase
the same aspect of God.
The phrase Holy Ghost is an older, archaic term that was commonly used in older translations of the Bible, such as the King James Version. While Holy Ghost was once the standard term, Holy Spirit has become more prevalent in modern translations and usage. This from, I'll try to get.
That sounds right.
It does sound okay. We'll go with that.
I have a Saint. I don't have it here. I'd have it in Florida. I have an old St. James version right near my bed, and a Dewey Rames version. Dewey Rames was the earliest Catholic translation, and the King James was originally a Catholic translation, I think. But in any event, it's sort of the translation of the Bible into Shakespearean English.
Right.
And actually, the versions they have of the King James version now aren't really the King James version. They're the modernized King James version. If you read the old King James version, it's like reading Shakespeare. Look at this picture of the Conclave. I'm going to show you one of the differences if you do see the movie.
Well, we got to see it, Mayor. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, maybe we'll put it on a little bit tonight.
Tonight, while we're packing up.
Oh, we got to pack up. Yeah, we're headed on a trip. We're going to tell you tomorrow.
To an undisclosed location.
We should be going to Rome, right? So you see, now this, I'm going to tell you the differences between this and what you see in the conclave. And this, I think, is the conclave that elected Pope Francis. So notice on both sides of this is the inner chapel of the Sistine Chapel. So the Sistine Chapel is divided roughly in half. When you walk in, it's the outer part of it. There's a gate, beautiful, beautiful steel gate that separates that from the inner sanctum. So when they say Mass, the public is out here and the priests, the friars, and whoever are in there. So when the bishops go in, they march through the public area, but no public there, but the public area. They go past the gate, and then all of this that you see now and here is set up on the inner area. That's where the 120 cardinals will be. And you see they have tables, and the ones in the back are slightly elevated, right? Now in I believe in the conclave, they make them like little booths. Like a
They stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, like a
Same with that
little
older
booth.
movie we watched.
Yeah, we'll have to watch that. And certainly in Shoes of the Fisherman, they do that.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
We'll have to look. We'll report to you tomorrow on that very important point. But here's the second point. In that movie, they have the vote. You see here, this is where they're going to put their vote in. And they have it up here, up near the top there. And here they have it in the center. And they had them coming in rows of 2. So, but this is an accurate picture. I guess they allowed one picture. And here's the smoke. There's the black smoke. We'll keep this so that we show you when it gets to be the important time. There's the black smoke and the white smoke. Can they see that, Ted?
I'm going to put it back on. Yeah. Keep that on for a second because I'm going to make sure we're charging the laptop.
Yeah. We're 100%. Black smoke, white smoke. But you can see like how this could easily be. Now, here's how St. Peter's is organized. You see at the right-hand corner at the beginning that you see the entrance to St. Peter's, right? You see the entrance to St. Peter's Basilica. If you go around to the right, you'll get to the Sistine Chapel, and that's the chimney. You see it outlined there. All the way on the other side is the St. Martha's house. The St. Martha's house was built about 25 years ago for the cardinals. It's their hotel for the cardinals to stay. And I think it was built by Pope John II. And he actually built it not so much for the very 3 century conclave. He built it because he brought the cardinals to Rome quite a bit, more than Francis did, because he thought of them as he used them more as a consultative body. And there's a lot of thought that the next pope should do more of that. And then he won't go off too much in one direction or the other, for those who felt that Pope Francis went too left. And then you see in the center there, oh, I'm sorry, we took it off. I mean, you can actually see behind me, you see a picture of it.
Yeah.
But that's the, so you see the center of it, which you saw in the picture. That's where everybody will be staying, waiting. And then when they have the mass, they might do it outside, right out here. So that's kind of, and there, if you look at that, you get an interesting idea of how there are almost as many ineligible as there are eligible cardinals. The red denotes the cardinals that are able to, there are 252 cardinals. 135 are under the age of 80. And that's just a little bit more than the ones who are not able to vote. I wonder how many of the ones that are not eligible come. We'll find out. Then I wonder, when they're finished for the day and they go back to the St. Martha's house, if the ones who are not part of the conclave can talk to the ones that are, Ted. Or is it like a jury? Now, if you look at the bottom, you get a breakdown of the number of cardinals. And you see that you can see the places where Christianity is growing, right?
Yes.
The most are still in Europe, but that's historical, and that's down, way down. That probably was double the number 25 years ago. But the number in Asia, where Christianity is growing the fastest in Asia and Africa. So you can see you have 23 Asian bishops, more than North American and South American, 18 African bishops. You have 16 in North America, which includes Canada and the US, 4 in Central America, all 4, by the way, appointed by Pope Francis, and 17 in South America. 75% of them have been appointed by Pope Francis. So does that mean that they're going to all be progressive the way he was? I doubt it. Maybe the South American bishops, because I don't know if people realize it or they don't want to realize it, but he very much was a product of liberation theology. And I think nobody wants to say that much because it sounds like he sort of was brainwashed. Well, he wasn't brainwashed. I mean, that's the way he was brought up. I mean, there were things about what he did that very, very much frustrated me like that. But there were also things that he did that I thought were historic. I thought the way he handled the financial scandals of the church was superb, and the way he handled working their way through and being able to grow and survive the horrible pedophilia scandals was an act of God. And then there were some things he did that I thought were terrible. The thing with China really just completely baffled me. Letting China have a role in picking cardinals, I don't get it, but we'll see. So tomorrow we may have a trade deal. I am predicting we will have one before the end of the week. You want to make a bet on 110?
Maybe we should. How do you feel about that, Mayor? I stopped betting so much when I started working with you.
Yeah,
not that I ever bet a bunch, but
I was sort of against it.
Yeah, you were very much against it. And you know what? I'm like, save a few bucks. You never win in the long run, right?
These little bets don't bother me. So here are I think the natural. Canada and Mexico are on their own, so they don't count.
We'll put a chart for tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow.
Well, when we can. We're always on the go.
Just in case they do it tomorrow, though. We know India is supposedly.
Oh, sorry. We're betting on the first trade deal.
We know India, Japan.
We're switching from Pope to trade deal. I'm going with
Taiwan.
They've been
Korea,
talking about China so much. It makes me wonder if they've
North Korea. Well, we're not going to do China first.
Japan?
I said Japan.
Okay. Vietnam?
Oh, and UK.
Vietnam, maybe? They were the first ones to reach out.
Yep.
Or maybe not reach out, but publicly.
No, they were. I think they were.
I think they were.
Well, the first ones to say 0-0.
Yeah.
Now India has said that. And
that's
Taiwan has said that.
That's a big one. But Vietnam, as we know, also plays a very critical role in what we're trying to do there in Southeast Asia. All right. Let's wager. I guess I should go first because you have a little bit more experience here. So I will pick. I'm going to go with Vietnam. That's the wrong choice. Dang it.
No, how do you
We
know?
have to stick with it, or can we change over time? Who do you think? Should we pick 3 or should we pick how do you want to do this?
Let's pick one for now, and then tomorrow, if it hasn't happened, we'll do something
Okay.
more like ranked choice voting.
Yeah. And let's
figure out something.
Comment below. Let us know. We'll keep track of the comments.
I'm going to pick an outsider that hasn't been mentioned.
Okay, so you're going to throw something on the list. All right, I wasn't privy to this option.
I should have put Israel into it.
Okay. Well, all right, but you want to pick, you have something else
I think it's going to be UK or Israel.
Okay. I mean, I guess you would say those are probably our 2 closest allies, at least up there, top 5.
And big trading partners.
And big trading partners. Of course, Tel Aviv being a
Vietnam
global
is a big
tech
trading
center.
partner. You made a good choice with Vietnam. See, I would pick Japan, but But I read the other day that the prime minister of Japan wants to come in 2 weeks and conclude it. So I think even if they have a deal, he wants to be,
Yeah, I love that.
India, Vance just concluded the deal with Modi, but I don't know that he can come and sign it. And
yeah, I mean,
they may announce that one.
That might be it. But what are you picking? So you say UK and
I'm going to
Israel.
pick UK. Because I'm going to go with one that hasn't been mentioned, but we're so close to, and we know how to do deals with them. And given the fact that they're not part of the EU,
stick it to the EU.
They made a choice with Brexit to really make us their biggest trading partners.
The president even called out the EU today, right? He even said the EU was designed and set up to take advantage of America.
Yeah, and I think the UK may want to get out ahead and have a better deal than the EU.
Smart, right?
Well,
good call, Mayor.
If the conservative government was there, it would definitely be the UK. So
right.
I'm going to go with that one. I'll keep this. So
Mayor,
again, let's
not end the show yet.
What do you got?
I have one thing I must bring up to you.
Go ahead.
I would say neither of us are the biggest basketball fans, but there is a playoff series happening right now between the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks.
Okay.
The Knicks have been favored. The Detroit Pistons beat them at the Garden last night to tie the series 1-1, and now we're headed back to Detroit. So I just have to mention that, Mayor. Maybe we'll follow that
Detroit
series
have the
closer.
home court advantage?
No, New York does.
Well, then why was the first game?
The first two games were in New York.
Oh, and they split them?
And they split them. And the Pistons are the underdogs.
So now the Pistons have...
We go back to Detroit now, tied 1-1.
So the way they do it, they do 2 in Detroit. Then they come back and do 1 in New York. They do 2 in Detroit.
2 in New York.
2 in Detroit.
2 in Detroit.
And then 1-1-1.
Well, let's find out. That's a good
Or
question.
1-1, rather.
That's a good. But anyway, I know we're talking big trade deals, the Pope, all these big issues, but I have to just mention that because it's your New York Knicks and my Detroit Pistons. And the Pistons upset them.
Oh, the Knicks favored by that much?
Yes, the Knicks were favored big time. The Pistons are the underdogs. The Pistons have not won a playoff game since 2008.
When the hell did the Knicks win a playoff?
Yeah. They've had a couple.
Usually the Knicks couldn't even get out of the first period.
Right. Yeah. So, and we blew past all of our, we were having so much fun tonight. We blew past all of our commercial breaks, Mayor. So we got to fit those in before we go anywhere.
Okay.
So let's pay the bills and we'll be right back to close things out.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost. cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this.
There's Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live and the concluding segment of it. Ted and I selected UK, and he selected Vietnam as the first for the trade deals. These were very, very quick selections, subject to change tomorrow. And also subject to adding some others. We're going to try to figure, maybe this will help us figure out ranked choice voting. If we do that,
Yeah, oh, maybe that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, because for the life of me, I think it's only one person understands it, and that's why they can cheat.
I still haven't figured it out.
So, the Pope, who was born in 1936 in Buenos Aires to an Italian family, Italians who came over from Italy, was a janitor and a bouncer at one time. He's a big guy, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a bouncer. Right. So he had quite a background. I hope that
Who were you talking about?
the Pope who died, who just died.
He was a bouncer?
He was a bouncer. He was a young man. He came from a.
Wait a second.
They say a poor family, but when you see pictures of them, they look like a middle class family.
Well, you know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they come from Buenos Aires, so I'd have to know where in Buenos Aires.
You've done work down there, correct?
His family went directly there. From his family went directly there from Italy. He was the first Pope from the Americas. He was the first from the Jesuit order. They rate Cardinal Dolan's chances as iffy, which is nice. At least they're rating him, right?
Right.
I told you the president and Mrs. Trump are going to the funeral. President Bush, by the way, went to the funeral of John Paul II. And they really didn't have a big formal funeral for Benedict, who died, if I recall correctly, on New Year's Eve, 2022, 2 years ago. But it was kind of quiet because he had retired. You know, he was retired for all but a year and a half of this Pope's papacy. So he was retired for a long time. He was born in Buenos Aires in 1936. He was the eldest of 5 children. His father, Mario Bergoglio, was an Italian accountant who fled Piedmont, Italy to escape Benito Mussolini. His mother, Regina Maria Savori, came from a Catholic family in Buenos Aires, though they too migrated from Italy. My recollection, however, is, although one newspaper had it wrong yesterday, that his mother, Regina, was born in Argentina of a family that came from Italy. And his dad was born in Italy from the very north. Piedmont is up in the very, very north of Italy. And would have been the area that was the most opposed to Mussolini as well. And then, as I told you, which I didn't know until now, in 2005, when they elected Pope Benedict, Mario Bergoglio, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, received a second number of votes. Now, I don't know who and how they revealed that because that's supposed to be secret. I don't remember that coming out at the time. And I don't remember when he was selected that, I mean, he would have been like, if he had gotten the second number of votes in the last conclave, he'd have been like the favorite going into the next one.
Right.
So I don't know. Well, what was it that you wanted to
No, that was it. Just the
bring us up on, Ted?
the Pistons and New York Knicks. I just a little bit of sports talk and
The Knicks? So what do you think?
the Pistons are going to win the series.
Oh, are you just saying that? Or do you have any idea? Have you watched them play once?
I have. The Pistons have been hot late in the year. Coming into the playoffs, they're kind of considered the hot young team here. Whether they can win it all, I don't know. But they're matching up well with the Knicks.
Well, this is a strange thing for the Knicks. They haven't been good in a long time.
They're the third seed. They're the 3 seed.
Yeah. They've got a good record.
Right.
The Pope is also not going to be buried in the Vatican. He's going to be buried at one of the very important churches in Rome, a beautiful church. It has some kind of special status, which I don't exactly remember. It's considered one of the 5 or 6 important churches. It does say in this article that one of his biggest achievements was he purged Secretary of State, one of the Vatican's most significant offices, of its financial assets in 2020 after it misappropriated millions of euros in questionable investments. And of course, they had the big scandal 20 years earlier. And that was really one of the things that, no Pope up until him had been able to accomplish. And he is going to be married at the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, or St. Mary Major, which he visited more than 100 times during his papacy. Now, exactly why he's not being buried in the Vatican, and does he not feel, who knows? I shouldn't say that he doesn't feel worthy. How do I know what the reason is? But he is going to be buried in the Church of Mary Major. So we'll be back tomorrow. We will be back first on Lindell TV at 7, and then we'll be back here at 8 on America's Mayor Live, and we'll have some really further discussions on the Pope, and we'll see how this trade thing is going, and we're hoping that there's going to be some progress toward peace. I really am. I hope you are praying for it also. It's about time those people are relieved of, well, pray for the people of Israel, and pray for the people of Ukraine, and pray for the people of Iran, and now pray for the Cardinals so that they make the right choice. I think it's going to be very important, this choice, about the growth of the church, because the church is structured right now to have massive growth, because even without a receptive papacy, it's been growing, and it's been growing because people are looking for an anchor. If you read about it, a lot of the additions to the church are not just people coming back to the church who are Catholic, but conversions of people from other churches where they feel the churches have lost their way, have lost their principles to wokeness. So here you have a pope that was serving wokeness. You end up with another pope like that, you might slow it down. And I think you also take away something that people of the world need very badly. Well, let's see what happens. I think there's a lot at stake here, as there was when we picked John the 23rd and Pope John II, both of whom were extraordinarily consequential popes. Well, Thank you very much for joining in. Please join us again tomorrow. If you missed any of this, of course, it'll be on X. You can watch it tomorrow. And anything happens, you know we're right on and talking about it and trying to make sure you get the full picture of it. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given